Hello, everybody. So, this is amazing to have you all here, and I welcome you all to the Web Application Hacking with WebZground, where Z stands for the zero, so it can be pronounced as the Web Zero Ground. We'll come to the concept why we are naming it Web Zero Ground in upcoming slides. So now it is obvious in the InfoSec domain, every time new people are coming from different domains. And they might be the expert in previous domain, but completely new to the InfoSec. Whether it is a student or a newcomer, or people who are coming to the bug bounties are mostly looking for the answers, like where to start, what to learn, and how should I approach to learn, what are the resources to get started. So to answer all these questions, hopefully in a satisfactory manner, we have created the a ground, which is known as the Web Zero Ground. It is created to learn and practice for the web application security concepts and hacking. So I'm a big believer in the community, and it really feels at home when I'm around my people. I help them, I contribute to the community, and I learn from the community. So this is the one of the contribution from our side for the people who are coming to the bug bounties and completely new to the bug bounties or web application hacking and security. Now, I would like to take a moment and would like to thank the Cocoon team and the Bug Bounty Village team for creating such a great event and conducting this event for learning and sharing the knowledge completely free. So let's get a bit friendly first. So who we are, I'm Narendra Kumar. I'm an information security enthusiast. Professionally, I am a web application and mobile application penetration tester. I used to keep a long beard and care a lot about that, but now I'm an ex-beardo. I do cycling. I love swimming. I'm a big fan of the DJ parties, and I'm a good storyteller. And today I have with me one of my friend, Parveen Yadav. He's a security researcher, and he's also a Cinec Red team member. He also like the parties and foodie. So I hope you must have guessed where did we meet. So it was the DJ party. Of course, it was in Goa uh, during the OSC sites. So now you might have questions in mind, like you might be so confused if you are completely new to the InfoSec domain or web application security. So you must be confused, like what to do and where to start, what should I learn and where to learn. So hopefully this training might help you to find the answers of these questions. So what we are going to cover in this workshop will be completely sticking around the fairly questions like what, where, and how and why. So what, like what we are looking for, where means where we'll find it, how means uh, how we gonna find it, and why we are looking for these vulnerabilities and the issues. So don't worry, be relaxed and calm, and no need to worry. It's going to be a brain friendly training, and you will be learning new concepts if you are completely new to the web application security. So let's move forward without wasting much of the time. So what we have today on the plate? So we're gonna talk about the agenda now. So first, we'll take the introduction of the WebZground, as we have I have talking about it from a couple of minutes. So we'll see what the WebZground is. Then we'll come to the web application fundamentals. 101, we'll understand the basic terminologies, and then we'll try to set up the proxy and intercept the traffic, analyze the request and response, and you know, and try to tamper with the request and analyze the response. So a bunch of things we will be doing during this portion. Now, in second part, we'll do the reconnaissance and we'll map the web application. We'll understand the low hanging fruits and we'll try to find out the low hanging fruits on the vulnerable web applications. And then we'll discuss some of the case studies about those. And in third part, we'll go slightly higher and we'll discuss about the IDOR, uh, SSRF, and some similar other vulnerabilities. And in fourth part, the Parveen will be covering the automation part, where he will be showing what are the extensions you can use to speed up or your pen testing work, or while doing the bug bounties, how you can utilize those extensions to gather more information and to be quick while testing for the low hanging fruits. And in the last part, we'll discuss about some of the resources, what you can do, how you can approach. All those things we'll be covering in the fifth part. So this is all we are having on the plate. Hopefully we will be able to cover all those things in a small time period. So now, as we were talking about the WebZground, now let's discuss in detail what is WebZground. So there are some features that WebZground has. It has the bunch of the web applications which are vulnerable, which can be used to practice and learn the different vulnerabilities and concepts of the web application security. Now, one thing is, in one click, the lab will be set up. It will be time saving. There will be no trouble. And this WebZground has the bunch of the tools which you can use to learn the web application hacking. So it does not contain the lots of tools. It has some of the basic tools which can get you started with the web application, and you can start the bug bounties. And one of the good thing is you have the access to the source code at the client. I mean, you have the source code on the WebZground and you run it locally. So it is a good way to go ahead and analyze the source code to get the better understanding. And WebZground, along with the vulnerable labs tools, it has also resources and references to learn more concepts about the web application security and hacking. So what was the reason we created the WebZground? And I would like to thank the WebZground team for creating this wonderful custom VM. So just wanted to create a self-contained training environment for the web application hacking so that the trainers can use it, the students can use it to learn, the junior penetration testers, they can learn the new concepts and then can practice the concepts here on the lab application. So these were the reasons, and we wanted something that can be easily set up and less time consuming, hassle-free environment. So there is no need to do more troubleshooting while setting up the practice lab for learning the concepts and practicing it. So by keeping all those things in mind, we created this WebZground. I hope it will help to students to learn about the web application security, and it might also help the bug bounty hunters. And it is obvious, if your base is clear, your concepts are clear, you will be having a good approach in mind. You will be having the clear concepts so that you get focus on the finding instead of blindly going here and there and looking for different things. So from the WebZground, what you can do, you can learn the specific vulnerabilities. You can go ahead and try in bug bounties. And similarly, if you are doing a pen testing project for the web application hacking, you can test these vulnerabilities on that particular project. So I hope everybody has downloaded the WebZground and the VirtualBox. If not downloaded, please go ahead. I will be sharing a link in the chat. You can just download the WebZground and the virtual box. Make sure you are downloading the virtual box because it will be very difficult to provide the support for the VMware or some similar other virtualization softwares. And after downloading the virtual box and WebZground, what you can do, you can follow the guide from the link I'm posting in the chat. It should not be very difficult to follow and set up. If you still having some problem, please let us know, one of our volunteer from the team. So here I'm mentioning how you can set up quickly. So you run the virtual box, go to files, click on the import appliances, and then you can just select the appliance. You can select your, in second step, you can select your OVA file from here. And once you select, it will look like something this. This is for the Windows. Similarly, you can do on the Linux and the Mac OS. It will work pretty fine. Sorry about the step 2 here. How to set up the WebZground? Again, it is a similar process. You will select the OVA file, just you click on next, and it will ask you to import. Just click on that. It will take a couple of minutes to complete. Once it will be finished, you will be ready to use the WebZground. And we were focused before creating the WebZground for the particular targeted audience. So we created the WebZground to keep in mind to help the students who wants to learn about the web application security, trainers who want to give the trainings of the web application security, and junior pen testers who wants to learn and new skills, new vulnerabilities for the testing purpose. So by keeping in mind WebZground we created so that the people can learn, and the people who are into I'm mentioning many of the times, like if you are into bug bounties, you should have the concepts clear first before trying on the live targets. And bug bounties are all about the patience. So you have to look for the vulnerabilities for the longest time. It's not necessary that you will learn the vulnerability and you can find it easily on the live target. And it is for the infosec enthusiast people who are not related to the infosec domain, but just the sake of the interest, they want to learn about the web application security concepts. They want to be aware about those, so they can use this and be aware about the security concepts. Let's have a look. So here it looks like this. When you will be done with the setup and you will run the WebZground, you will see the screen like this. And once you will click on the menu, it has the categories for the web applications for the penetration testing. It has the tools. And if you run the browser, you will find the resources to learn from there. So currently we are having the few of the vulnerable labs that you can use for learning and practicing purpose. We have the DVWA, OWASP, Juice Shop, and BWAP, XVWA, and SQLite Lab. So it contains a bunch of the SQL injection challenges. So I would like to thank all the open source project creators for contributing to the community, and I'm using those bunch of labs here to make it a little bit more easy for the newcomers who are completely new to the infosec domain. And it has the bunch of tools that you can use. It has the burp proxy that you can use for intercepting the request and response. It has the Firefox. It's pretty nice that you can use to interact with the web applications. And everybody knows about the Firefox, right? And it has bunch of different tools. It has the command line tools, which you can just check it out. It has the Nmap, SQL map, Termux, and the screen. So these two tools are used. Suppose if you are running a long scan on your host system, and you want to keep that process running in background. So for that purpose, you can use termux and screen, both of the command line utilities in Linux you can use. So what it will do is, once you will start this session for the screen and you run a process and you just detach the session, what will happen, the process will be keep running in background, whether your terminal just closes, or uh, you know uh, your terminal may closes in by mistake. So it will be keep running in the background. So suppose similarly, instead of the VM, if you are already uh, know the basics of the web application security and you are doing the bug bounties, and if you are using the server, I would recommend to use the screen and termux, uh, one of the utility to use it, because if by mistake you close the active command line uh, interaction terminal, the process will be keep running in the background, and you can go ahead and just attach it the screen again, and just you can use it. We can have the demo of this in upcoming slides. So these are the tools. Also, you can go ahead and explore these tools. So this is the browser. It has the learning resources here. We have bookmarked. It's not the much here, but some of the good resources that you can follow and read. And it has the bookmarks for the lab applications, which are already installed on the VM. You can go ahead and use one by one. So this is all about the VM. It's very simple, pretty. So we have automated small steps to run the vulnerable web applications here, and the tools. So this is all about the WebZground. You have the resources to learn. You have the tools to practice for the web application security, and you have the lab to practice on. So you can go ahead and try use these tools, play around with the lab applications, and be more creative while playing, and be thoughtful. If you are doing this, what should happen? Always think about what is happening when you are doing some activities with the web application. So for the future plans for the WebZground is, first thing is to reduce the size. We would like to introduce more vulnerable web application to this custom VM for the practice purpose, and we'll install some of the good latest tools for the penetration testing or bug bounty hunting. We'll be adding those, and we'll be adding a detailed roadmap for the web application penetration testing learning, how you can learn the web application security concepts. So we'll try to create a detailed roadmap for that. And currently, it does not have lots of the resources, but what we are trying to do is we are collecting some of the good resources. Currently, we are working on that. And once that will be done, we will be putting it on the VM so that you can use those resources and references to learn about particular topics in depth and up to date. You can stay up to date with that. And if you have more ideas or suggestions about the WebZground, or any way you would like to contribute to this project, please drop us an email about the webzground@gmail.com. And also, if you have any questions regarding the web application security, feel free to drop those questions on this email ID. If we we won't be able to cover the answer of your questions in this session or during the workshop, so feel free to drop us an email after the workshop if you have any doubts. Now comes the web application fundamentals. So in this part, we will be learning about how application works, what is the client and server model, what is HTTP, what is URL, IP, port, DNS, how the HTTP request looks like and the response also, and what is the difference between the HTTP, HTTPS, what is SSL, why we are using the SSL, and different concepts. What is OSI layer, how two applications or how the two systems communicate with each other. So we're gonna cover in this part. Then we'll, be covering the small terminologies, uh, which can just give you the ideas like what it is, like encryption, encoding, hashing. Why we are covering all these basic terminologies and basic concepts of the web application? Because we are starting from the zero ground. So at least you should know the basics of the web application fundamentals so that you don't feel strange completely. Then we'll understand the difference between the authentication and authorization. Where does it come in picture when you are using an application? And then we'll see what are the risks are attached with the data when it is in the transit, when it's traveling in the network. So we're gonna cover this. Let's understand about the client and server, how they communicate, and also what is client and what is server, because we are getting started from very scratch, so we should know what is client and server. So let's understand what is client. So client is a browser like Firefox, Chrome, and similar others, Internet Explorer. So with the browser, the user interacts, and the client, the browser, makes the request to the server, and server takes that request and process that and give back the response, which means the server is serving to the request which is made by the client. Simply, it's very simple, like client and server. Client user interacts with the client, and client interacts with the server, and server process the request and give it back the response. For example, if you are going on a shopping website and you want to purchase an electronic item, specifically a laptop, when you go to the website, you search for you select a electronic item category, and then you select the product laptop, a specific laptop. When this request goes to the server, what server does is it takes the request, it processes that, and it serves the request. How it does? It look for that particular laptop in the database on the server, and it fetch that data and show it back to the client. So it goes as a response and show it to the client, which is the user is using the client, and he can or she can get the result of the laptop. So this is how the client and server interacts. There are much more technical details in background how the things happens. We'll come to know one by one all those things. So now understand the communication between, and let's be familiar with some of the technical terms. Now, the browser which user uses, that's known as the client for us. So now when client is making request to the web server, and now request is used, which is the HTTP request. So this HTTP request we'll learn about this in upcoming slides. What is HTTP request? We'll see what it contains, how does it work, what is the format of this, and some sort of things. So now web server gets the request, it processes that, it look for a specific resource which is requested by the browser. Suppose the browser, the client is requesting for a HTML page which says hello.html. Now the web server will look for that particular hello.html page, and it will serve back to the browser. And on the screen of the browser, the user will see the result of the hello.html. So this is how it happens. And one more thing to mention, the web servers can contain more than one servers. Like it can have the different database servers to store the information. So that's it about the client and server communication. Now, as we saw in the previous communication diagram, there were the HTTP request and HTTP response. Now, the HTTP request, before understanding that, let's understand what is HTTP. So HTTP stands for the Hypertext Transfer Protocol. And this text transfer protocol language is used between the client and server to communicate. And we all know the language is used to exchange the ideas and information. Generally, all the humans do, we exchange the information and data with each other by expressing our thoughts, our ideas, our views by the language. Most of the time, not always, because sometimes we express the emotions by the body language as well. But that's not the case with this. So client and server communicate and understand the HTTP language for the communication. And now, one more thing to mention, the HTTP uses the TCP connection to connect with the server. So whenever the client will make the request to the server, first it will establish a connection, that is the TCP connection. There are two types of protocols to establish the connection and transferring the data. There are TCP and UDP packets. So here we will be focusing on the TCP right now, because TCP is the reliable and it is used by the HTTP. Now, HTTP is also known as the stateless protocol. What does that mean, like stateless protocol? As you can guess, like stateless, there will not be any state. And now what does that mean? The server does not contain any information about the communication happening with the client. It does not keep any track or record of the previous request of the client. And that means each request will be considered as an independent request. And because of that, it's known as the stateless protocol. And later on, to solve this problem, the sessions were introduced. Session is something, token that is generated for a particular time period. So the client no need to establish the connection again and again with the server. So now if I explain it in technical terms, so what happens, why we are calling it stateless protocol? Because when the client makes a request to the server, it makes a TCP connection first. Once the connection is established, the server responds to the client and they send the request and response, get the response. Now, after completing the request and response process, like client makes the request to the server and server sends back the response. Just after that, the connection will be closed. And now, when the next time, when the client will make the request to the same server, so the server will not have any details about that client, like it has previously it made a request. So again, the client need to establish a TCP connection with the server and again need to make a request and get the response, and again the connection will close. So because of this, because there will not be any state, any track of the client that it has been communicating with the server previously. So because of that, it's known as the stateless protocol. And one more thing, the request contains the data in clear format. So it makes the data, it plays the data on the disk. So now we know how the client makes the request to the server. Now, how do you know, or how does this client knows that where to make the HTTP request? Now we are typing the website name like www.example.com, and it will connect to the particular server and fetch us the details. How does it happening? I want you to think like a teddy bear. So what happens, as I was saying, the client makes the HTTP request. So this HTTP request contains the URL, it contains the headers, methods, which is used by the client to make a specific request to a particular server. Now, if we are talking about the URL, so what do you mean by that? You must be thinking, what do you mean by that URL? So let's understand the what is URL. So URL has a specific, syntax. So you have to follow this particular syntax in order to browse a particular resource of a website or a particular shopping website. So it has the HTTP protocol and it has the host. It uses the port number, absolute path, and the query. So now let's understand. Now let's suppose I want to visit a website that is the WebZground. So for that, what I need to do, I need to visit a URL, right? So to construct a URL, I will be following the syntax of the URL. So first, what we do, we use the HTTP protocol : // it is the format. Now host. So here host means the domain name. So I want to visit the www.webzground.com. So www.webzground.com. So this is the host I want to connect. Now, if I need to mention the port as well. So for the port number for the HTTP is 80. Now, if I want to, now suppose on the WebZground website, there is a category for the tools. When you click on tools / and now the particular tool name is like subdomain.html. Now, when we will visit this, what it will do? It will take me to this particular HTML page. No, what it will do is it will make the request to this particular location to the server, and it will fetch the details of this subdomain.html. So whatever details it will be having, it will show me on the client side on the browser. So suppose there are different variations for the URL. So URL is something, it tells you the location of the resource, like from where I can get the resource. Now suppose there are different servers. So different servers have the different IP addresses. So let's understand about that as well, but let's wait for a couple of minutes and see the different variations in the HTTP request with the help of the URL. So now if you see the HTTP, this is the fixed one. If I request the webzground.com and I mention the port and I visit a page on the WebZground website, hello.html, so it will show me the result hello.html. Now similarly, in second, if I visit the http / webzground.com and I don't mention the port number and I mention the path of that HTML page and the page name. Now in this case, what will happen, because we have not mentioned the port number for the HTTP, and if we are not mentioning any port for the HTTP, by default it takes port 80, that means 80. Similarly, for the WebZground, for tool, if you search something like recon, so it will search for the recon, but we have not mentioned the port number here. So by default, it will take the 80. And the below one is the same request, which is used for searching for the recon. So what this will does, when you will click on this URL on a page, it will make a HTTP request to the server, and now server will process the request. Now, what does this HTTP request look like and what does it contain? Before that, let's understand a very small concept of the DNS. It's known as the domain name server. So as we have been speaking about as I have been talking about the client and server. So here DNS comes into picture where we type the domain name. So now machine understands the zeros and one and numbers. And for the machine, it is very easy to remember the numbers. But for the human being, it's very difficult to remember like suppose here's the IP address. It will be very difficult for you to remember the more than 10 or 20 IP addresses, but the name convention you can remember, like the domain name you can remember. So for the convenience of the humans, the DNS concept came in so that the people can remember the domain name and they can easily browse. It is just for the convenient purpose. So if, as I was doing the www.webzground.com, so it was going to the DNS server. The DNS server resolves the domain name to IP address. So what it does is it checks on the DNS server, like this is the domain name. Now tell me which one IP address is associated with this domain. Now once that DNS gets the IP address, now browser makes the request on that particular IP address and the port, which is by default, if you are using the HTTP, that means it will connect on the port 80. Similarly, when the request is coming back from the server, the same thing happens in the reversing of the DNS. So what happens? The IP changes into the domain name and it serves back to the user. So this is how DNS works. Like it changes the domain name to IP and convert the IP to domain name. So now, as I was talking about the request and response, so let's discuss few of the components that a request contains or a HTTP response. So we'll see a screenshot of the HTTP request and response of the live request. So it contains the URL, that also known as a request line, and in response it has the response code. It uses the HTTP headers. It also uses the response headers. It uses some request body. It also has the response body. So let's have a look at the screenshot. So now, as I was saying, the request line, the URL. So this first line is known as the request line. So this request line has the URI, the post. So now don't get confused with the URL and URI. URL is a location for a particular resource, but URI is to identify a particular resource at a place. So let's take an example of your society where you are living, and in your society there is your home number. So now if I say URL, so that means it will contains your society name and your home address, that is the plot number. Now this is something. Now if I say go to this society, this plot number, and find the Narendra, so mentioning the whole address is the locator, but identifying that particular resource, that is Narendra, is the URI. So then don't get confused. Let's focus on the HTTP request and response format first. So the first line is the request line, and it has first is the methods. So there are different methods like get, post, put, delete, update, options. There are few more. So these methods tells about what operation can be done on this request, or what operation should be done. So what post does is it is used for creation. Get is to read the data, and put is for to update. Delete is to delete the resource, and patch is also used for updating the resource. So there are different methods uh, that can be used. Now this is the URI, the particular resource address. Now this is the protocol version. So this one first line is known as the request line. Similarly, in the response, it has the request line with the protocol version and the response code. So it has a different response code like 200. If it is starting with 2, that means it will show you the success and unsuccessful, similar more. If it is starting from 3 and something something, that means it will tell you about the redirect, permanent redirect, and temporary redirect, and similar. If it is getting the 400 or 4 something something, that means it is giving some error. And if it is dealing with the server and getting some errors from the server, it will show the 500 or 5 something something. So this is the request line in the request and response. Now if I talk about the host, it has the host address, which can be a domain name. Like I was using the example, the WebZground, and it has some different headers. So this was the request line, and these are the headers. These are the known as the headers, and these headers help the server identify, like help the client to make a request to a particular server. Like suppose make a request to the WebZground, and the user agent tells about the client information. Like if I'm using the Firefox, am I using the Chrome or the Internet Explorer, similar. And accept tells about the what kind of request it will be accepting by the server. Accept language, it tells about the which language the client and server understands. Accept encoding, which encoding the server understands, so that they can use that encoding methods to encode the data and send back to the server, send to the server. So this accept encoding is the used for encoding and transferring the data so that it won't lost in between, and the systems can understand each other. Now next comes the content length, which is 83. It tells about the request length, and there are some other headers like origin header. It tells about the from where the request was generated, and referer header tells about the previous location from where it is coming from, and it is the cookie. It contains the session details and similar many more. And similarly, the response format has the similar headers, tells about the location header from where it is coming, and it uses the cache control. It tells about the like, is it having any using any caching caching mechanism or not. It tells about the expiry of the request and similar other content, like which type of content does it support, the XML and HTTP. So these are all the details about the HTTP request and response. So I hope you have understood. Like mainly just keep in mind 3 things. It has the request line, and request line contains the method, URI, and the protocol version. Then comes the headers and the body part, and body part can contain the parameters, some query parameters, or some other stuff. And similarly in the response, it has the first line, and it contains the protocol version, response code, and the message, and it contains the headers. It is not necessary that the response, HTTP response or HTTP request must have the body part. That's optional. So now let's have a demo and capture a request and response of a web application. And let's get more familiar by capturing the different requests and response. So now I have a few questions and you must be having. Why we are capturing the request and response? What is the need of that? So to analyze the request and response, we need to capture the request and response. So if we'll capture the request, we can modify and tamper with the normal behavior of the application, and we can try to analyze like if we are tampering and if we are not using the application the way we should use, is it behaving in the same way or it is behaving abnormal? So to analyze that, because most of the application testing uh, contains the observing the response, modifying the request, and then checking the response. So most of the web application hacking relies in between the request and response, as per my experience and my understanding. So that's why we need to you know capture the request and response. Now, what to do to capture the request? So we need to configure proxy. And now you must have the question, what is proxy? If you are completely new to the web application security, you never heard about the web application proxies and all, you must be having the question in mind, what is proxy? So proxy is something, let's understand it like this. Okay, so whenever the request is going from the client to server and response is coming from the uh, server to client. So what proxy does is it intercepts the traffic in between the client and server, and by using the proxy we can analyze the request. If suppose request is going here, we are stopping the request, analyzing the request, or if we want to modify it, we will modify and send it back to the server. Now server will not object anything, will not say anything, it will take that request. The work of the server is to serve the request by analyzing it. If it founds this resource or particular item which is requested by the client, it will find that, it will send it back to the client, but it will not directly go to the client. It will stop at the proxy. For that we need to capture the response as well in the proxy, and it will send it back to the client. So this is how this proxy helps to analyze the request and response of a web application. So now if we are talking about the proxy, we know how this works. Like, it allows us to capture the traffic. And one more thing, here the web proxy is working as a server as well as a client. So let me explain to you that. So now for this client, this proxy is a server, and for this server, the proxy is the client. And opposite, same in the response case, it receives the request from the server, so it's a client. Now it is serving the request to the client, that means it's a server. So this is how the proxy works as a server and client, both the ways, depending on the situation of the request and response direction. Now you must be having the question in mind, like how to do it. So now I want you to start the WebZground, which we created previously, and I hope everybody has done with the setup. So I want you to go to the tools and run the bub suite. It will take a couple of seconds to run, and meanwhile you can go to the tools as again and run the Firefox. All right. Okay, so just keep following me. Once it will run, start the burp suite. Okay, so now what you need to do is, once you have started, go to the browser, go to the menu, run the burp suite first, and then second run the Firefox. Once you are done, go to the browser upper right corner and enable the burp community version. If you see in upper right corner, you will see a Foxy proxy add-on icon. So if I do here, I will enable the burp suite community version. Don't worry, I will explain how you can set up this proxy. For 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 the current purpose, what I am doing is I want to show you the request and response, and we can analyze the various request and response of an application, and then we'll see how we can set up this proxy setup. Now I want you to go ahead and run the one of the web application. I want you to run the dvwa, start it, enter the password, which is 12345. It is same for all the attendees. Now it will take a couple of seconds to run the web application, and it will fire up a burp suite Firefox. Just you need to refresh it, all right, and create and reset the database, and that is done. All right, now I want you to go ahead and capture the request. Refresh it again, and if you'll see, you are able to capture. So now what I did, I just simply run the burp suite. I enabled this option from Foxy proxy. I enabled the burp community version, and I came here on the proxy tab, under the proxy tab, the intercept tab, and here you just enable the intercept on. Now you are able to capture the request. Now here are different operations you can do, which we will see in the upcoming slides, the basic uses of the different tabs and features of the burp suite. Now I just want you to forward it. All right, so now we can use the admin and login. Don't forward this. You can turn it off. You can check the history as well, and to see the latest request, what you can do, you can short it using this option filter. So now if you see, I made a request to the login. I do admin, again admin, all right, don't do it. Now we have captured the request of the dvwa. Now similarly, you can go ahead and just stop this application. So why I'm showing you this, so while you will be using the WebZground, make sure you are running one application at a time, because uh, most of the applications are running on the local host, and they might be using the same port as well. So this might create some problems. So I want you to stop the application and run another application. Now if I go back to the web applications, I run the bwap, it will ask me for the password. I can type 1234, and same again, it will run the bwap, right? I can open it from the bookmarks as well. All right, where is that? learning web applications, and here for the B web application. So now I can go to the login page. On the login page, I will use the B and bug. If I capture the request of this, I should get the login details. So as you can see, if I am seeing the browser, here I am seeing the two input fields normally. But when I'm capturing the request in the background using the proxy, as I explained before, it is using the method, it is using the URI, protocol version, HTTP protocol version. It has the host, where on which domain it will be making the request. It has the detail of the browser which we are using, I mean the client. It accepts the text, HTML, and different XML types, and it shows that the client understands the English language, and it is using the JZip encodings. So similar other details it is having. It has the cookie details, and as I was entering the username and password, and it was going in the request, and I can see it now. So now if I forward this, I must see in the HTTP history. Now if I observe, so now this has the request. Now check the parameters, it does not have any response. But here if I see the another login request, so this one, the login request, it has the request and response. So now what is happening, once the user logs in, it redirects the user, because 302 means the redirect. It will redirect the user to different location, and which is the portal dot. All right, let's see where does it redirect us. So show response in browser, copy it. What you can do, you can paste it here, hit enter, and just turn off the. All right, now it is redirecting us to the portal.php. So now by analyzing the request, you came to know, like when you log in, it redirect the user to the portal.php. So this is how you analyze it, and by seeing the response, you came to know like it is redirecting to the different location in the domain. So that's all. Now I want you to capture the HTTP traffic. So you have already done this, and if you have done this, you are able to capture the HTTP traffic. Well done. And let's move forward, learn more some concepts about the HTTP and HTTPS. So let's have a demo. So first I will open the Burp Suite. I'll go to the proxy options. Inside the proxy, I will go to the tab options. Here you will see the proxy listeners. So what you can do, you can just click on edit if it is already not added. So you can here mention the port number, where you want to listen the traffic, and the IP address. So here we will be using the loopback IP address, where we will be listening the traffic of our browser. So you can click on OK. Now I will go to the Firefox. I'll go to the preferences. I'll scroll down and network settings. Inside the network settings, I can just, if you must be having on the no proxy, you can go to the manual proxy, and here you can mention the IP address 127.0.0.1, which is the local IP address, local host IP address, and here you can mention the port number 8080. So now what will happen is, the traffic of this browser will go to this IP address and the port number, and the listener on the burp proxy will be listening on this IP and the port number on this system. One thing you can use it, and another way of setting up this burp proxy is, I like that way, is using the one of the add-on which I have already added in the Firefox. So instead of just keeping this enable, this manual part, because if I want to, if I don't want to capture the requests of the web application, I need to come to preferences, network, and then disable and click on no proxy. So I have a very easy option here, which is the Foxy proxy. Just you can simply click on, once you set up the proxy. So how you can set up the proxy in here, just click on the options, click on add, and you can give the title any, like burp burp test, just for the identifying it, and we can mention the 127.0.0.1, and you can mention the port number 8080. I have already created one, but I'm adding it just to show you a demo. So I have the two proxies now. It is possible that you might be using more than one proxies, like this is the burp, you might be using the zap and some other proxies to intercept the traffic. So now what you can do is you can simply just, as you see, the burp test is coming here. So you can select the burp test. Now we should be good to capture the traffic. I can go to the intercept, and if I refresh, let's intercept on, let me refresh it. So as you can see, I'm getting the request here and forwarding it. All right. Now, what if, and now one more thing, if you are getting some Firefox request like captive portal service, so what you need to do is go to the about config, like about config, and proceed in the this network captive. So this one, you it must be disabled so that you won't get the unnecessary request from the Firefox. You just disable this. This was the trick. There are some other things which might trouble you from the Firefox, and for that I will be adding a blog post so that you can follow that and disable some of the settings from the Firefox. So now we are able to successfully capture the HTTP traffic. Now, what if I ask you to capture the traffic of the https://facebook.com. I want you to go ahead and just try to capture, because you are already able to capture the traffic of the HTTP. Now, if I ask you to do https://facebook.com. So it is saying something, software is preventing Firefox from safety connections to this site, and it is showing some of the, the errors, certificate error. All right. So in order to capture the HTTPS traffic, what you need to do is type the http://burp, hit enter, and you will see a CA certificate here. You can click on the download and it will download a certificate. I have already downloaded it in the on the whole system. So what I will do is I will go to the preferences. I'll go to the privacy and service, security, privacy and security. From there, the view certificates. Now in the authorities, I can import the certificate so that it can trust and allow us to capture the traffic. Enable both the options. Okay, okay, and now try refresh it. So now you are able to visit the website and as well as able to capture the traffic from the Facebook. And this is the HTTPS. So I have a question for you, like why we were not able to capture the traffic of the HTTPS. But after installing the CA certificate, we were able to capture it. So what was the reason behind it? So as previously I explained the concept of the SSL, where the client verifies the authenticity of the server by using the SSL certificate, which is the CA certificate, which is provided by the certificate authorities. I'm sorry. So what will happen when the browser is making requests? It is intercepted by the proxy, and it is making request to the server. But when the browser is receiving the response, uh, it is not able to establish the SSL negotiation. Three-way handshake, it's not happening because the certificate is not valid, because this browser is not having the certificate of the verb. So in this case, what we did is we have added the CA certificate, verb CA certificate in the browser. So whenever the response will come with the SSL certificate, which is coming from the verb, so the browser will verify that it is a valid certificate and we can trust this server. It is a authentic server. So it will allow verb to capture the request and make it forward. And similarly, in order to receive the response as well. So now there are few options in the verb to intercept or capture the traffic. As in proxy, we have the options. So here there is the option for intercepting the client request. So we are intercepting it. And now if you want to intercept the traffic or you want to intercept the response as well of the request, so you can click on it, and now you can disable these so that you can capture all other requests as well other than these. So you can capture the JS files, and from the JS files you can find some interesting information. So this is the target tab. We'll discuss all the tabs one by one. So I hope you are able to understand why we were not able to capture the traffic of the HTTPS, because the SSL negotiation was getting failed. And to make it that work, what we did, we installed the CA certificate on the browser, and now the browser was trusting the server, proxy server, which is the burp. Now it was saying that the server um, is authentic server. Now it is safe to communicate with the burp server. So this is a normal concept where it comes in. So simply you can just install the CA certificate and capture the traffic. So a Foxy Proxy, the add-on which makes the task easy for setting up the network proxy, and it saves your time as well. And third thing, it is quickly to switch between the different proxies. Suppose if you are using the Zap proxy and Burp, if you want to switch quickly between these two proxies, you just need to go to the Foxy proxy and just click on the selected and configured proxy. So it's easy. Now let's discuss about some of the mostly used features of the Burp. So we'll discuss the mostly all the tabs which are very useful and the feature of these tabs that we can use for the pen testing purpose. So let's go to the WebZground. So first, one thing what we did is the proxy setup. Now, just after the proxy, there is one more thing that you need to do to configure the burp. So what you can do, you can go to the extender. So you might have heard about the burp extensions that you can use for the pen testing purpose or for the bug bounty purpose to, increase the surface area for the attack. So when you go to the extender, inside that you go to the options, and here you see the Java environment. So what you can do, you can just select the Java environment. You can download the Jython standalone. You can select it. I have already downloaded it on the VM, and I have done the setup. So you don't need to worry about all those things. But just to make you aware, when you do it on some other system, you should know about these basic things and the Ruby as well. So for the Ruby environment, you can download the JRuby and set the path. So Parveen also going to cover this extended part as well, and he will be explaining about the different extensions you can use for a specific purpose. So he will be explaining lots of extensions from the Burp suite that you can use. He will be explaining about the Pro and the community version, both the extensions. So stay connected. He will be doing this. I think after completing my content of the workshop. So let's wait till that time and stay excited. Now it comes the so now this is the proxy tab. Now first comes is the intercept. When you will turn it on, when you will refresh, you will get the, I want to resend it. All right. So I will get the request in the intercept. So now if I want to forward it, it will forward the request like this. Now, if I want to drop it, I don't want to send it forward to the server. So it will drop the request. Now, as I enable the intercept the server response. So because of that, now, as you can see, it is showing me the response of the request, which I forwarded. Now I can forward it. Now again, it is sending some other Mozilla request. So I can just keep forwarding it. And now one thing that if you go to the target, so here you have the scope. So I have already added the scope. So if I remove this and I, I remove this filter as well. So I see lots of things here. So now to keep it this sitemap neat and clean, what I can do is I just want to see the sitemap of the applications which are in the scope. So suppose I want to add it to the scope. So that means it will be showing me the applications which are in scope, but it is showing me all uh, the web addresses here. So what I can do, I can just click on this show only scope items. Now it will show me the specific web application site tree structure. As you can see, it has the about.php, it has the information about the app, it contains the dbwa, and it has the JS files. And JS files, what you can do, you can just use these JS files to analyze them, check if you can find some interesting information from there, like API keys or some other secret information. Now, if you go to the proxy, here you can disable, enable the target scope. And this is just to exclude the target which you don't want to capture in the request and response. So now here it comes in the proxy. When you click on the filter,
as currently it is showing me the different lots of requests. So when I go here and click on show only scope, it shows me the required uh, requests in the HTTP history. It shows me the clean history instead of showing unnecessary request and response in the history tab. This is used for showing the sockets communication, and these are the options I already explained to you. So these are the main basic features. Now it comes to the intruder, which can be used for the brute forcing uh, purpose. It has the different type of payloads. I mean, yeah, it has a different type of payloads. So it has the sniper, battering ram, and cluster bomb. So these brute forcing methods are used for different scenarios. So one of the scenario we'll be covering in a demo by using the intruder. So you can just brute force the parameters and some other requests using the intruder. It has the payload options. You can select the single payload, uh, simple runtime, and list. So these are the options are available. You can also set the you know how much request you want to send. It must be here in the options. You can define the number of retries. You can uh, define the time, how the difference between the each request, how much it should be. So these things you can define it here. Repeater is to repeat the request again and again. So you can just tamper with the request and analyze the response. What happens if I remove everything and send the request? It shows me the same response. There is no effect. Sorry, and it also gives the good feature to name the tab, like access is found. So if you have found the uh, access is found. So this type of naming you can give. Now next comes the decoder, which is used for encoding uh, the data in the URL, HTML, base64, and different available encoding methods. It decodes as well. So as you can see, it has encoded it in the HTML now. So now if you want to decode this from the HTML, you get the two angular brackets. So this is used for the encoding and decoding purposes. Uh, compare to requests in the comparer, you can check you can do the comparison between two requests and response here. Mainly the data you can compare, right? Now extender, this part Parveen will be covering, and the project options are something there is no much use. Yeah. So one thing, uh, if you are very interested in using the server, so what you can do is the upstream proxy you can use. You can add a proxy. You can add the host here and the port number, and simply click OK. So by using this option, you will be able to send the traffic from your local system to server. So which is a very nice way. Like if the target has blocked your system IP address, so you can use the server to forward the traffic to the application and analyze it. And user options. So it tells about the different configurations like display. Do you want to increase the font size, or what kind of font do you want to see? So these are the settings here. Mesh, it contains the hotkeys. So it is a really nice feature. Like uh, for the dev tools, we use the shortcuts. So it is better to use the shortkeys for the forwarding as well to the repeater. For example, if I am on the request here, if I do the control R, it should send me the request here, right? So it has sent me the request. Now again, I do on the other request, control R, it will send me. So it is easy. Instead of going and right clicking and sending it to the repeater, what you can do is you can use this simply control R. So there are lots of other uh, hotkeys that you can use to speed up your work. So that's it. These are the features of the burp uh, that you can use, and you can explore all these tabs, and I will be giving the link to read more about the burp options and utilize all the features of this effectively.
Just a quick check from all of you guys. I hope no one is in this situation right now. I hope, I know we have covered a lot of theory concepts, and we did the demos as well. Like we did, we tried to capture the traffic of the application, and then we analyzed the request and response of the web application, which is the HTTP request and response. And then we went in deep, and then we analyzed what is the structure of the HTTP and HTTPS, and how does HTTP works, what is the structure of the HTTP request and response. We learn about the protocol, used methods, uh, protocol version, and different headers and body part, and lots of things we have covered in last few hours. Not the few hours, it's couple of minutes, I can say. Not the couple of minutes, yeah, more than 45, 40, 50 minutes. So yeah, uh, part one is completed, and this is the wow factor. So the most difficult thing we have covered now, which is the theory part and the concepts. Now we are ready to go. These basic concepts are really necessary because if you don't know how a web application works, the client and server communicates, it becomes very difficult to understand the concepts and about the security. So now you have the basic understanding. It's not limited to these topics. There are a bunch of things are to learn. You can go ahead and explore. This is these are the topics we are covering just to get you started quickly. So now you have the basic understanding of the web application, and you know the bird basics and features now. You also know how you can capture the traffic as well. So now you go ahead, try to practice as much as possible, because uh, the very true thing is there is no shortcut for the practice. You have to do the practice, you have to learn it, because if you will do it uh, one time, two times, three times, then you will be very comfortable in doing it, like capturing the traffic, analyzing the request and response. And most of the things happens in between the response and the request. You modify the request, you observe the response, and you keep checking the application's different features by doing this. And there are different concepts we will be learning in upcoming slides, I mean. And yep, uh, the part two. In part two, we'll be doing the recon. Recon is all about gathering the information and knowing your target as much as possible. So we'll be doing the content discovery. We'll analyze how we can find out the technology used by the web application. Then we'll try to enumerate the subdomains of the application, and uh, we'll see how we can do the port scanning. We might not be doing the demos of the subdomain enumeration or the port scanning, because we'll be using the lab application. So we'll be mostly covering the application side issues. The recon part, we will be quickly covering it. Uh, and we have different talks related to the recon, I think tomorrow in the bug bounty list. So you can guys, keep calm and just wait for the recon session. You can go ahead and just explore this particular domain more. So this is all we gonna cover in the part 2. So every time when we get a project or a bug bounty target, we always check the scope of the target. So there are different ways the companies define their scope depending on their requirement or the need. So what they do is, if they have mentioned the target.com, that means they want to test their main domain only. And if they have mentioned like star.target.com, so that means they want you to test the main website as well as their subdomains, all the subdomains. And in this case, the scope will be the larger, and the possibility of finding the issues are no much more, because there will be a lots of things to cover. And if the application or the company has mentioned only test.rget.com, that means they want to test you the specific subdomain. So this is all about the scoping part. Now, how we can find the technologies used by the application. So there is a one add-on known as the Vapalizer, which tells about the web application technologies, like what are the technologies has been used by the web application. Like it is showing it is using the JavaScript framework, that is Angular, Json.js, and it is telling about the UI, what are the things has been used. It is saying it is using the Apache and also the PHP with version 5.5.9, and it is using the Ubuntu operating system to run the application. All right. Now, the second option is we can use the online resource to check the web applications. So suppose I want to test the uh, facebook.com. So when I will start it, it will show me the use technologies by the this facebook.com. So it is saying it is using the PHP and this G framework and DOM ready JavaScript library. So this is all in the free version. Now, and the next thing what you can do is you can analyze the request and response. For example, as you notice in the request, if you see the cookies, inside the cookies, it has the PHP session ID. And now PHP session ID, the key value pair name is used by the PHP framework. So by this, you can get to know like it is using the PHP framework for the development, and it is using the server Apache. So by doing these things, you get to know about the technologies used by the web application. So there are many other ways. These are just to give you the idea about the uh, path. So you can go ahead and try to find the technologies. They are different you know online services which helps you to identify the technologies. And yeah, that is okay. So now it comes to the subdomain enumeration and the content discovery. So for the some subdomain enumeration, there are different tools, and for the sub content discovery as well. So as I was saying, like uh, there is a sublister tool that we can use to find the subdomains. So what I did, I already ran the this facebook.com subdomain enumeration by using the sublister. So it is showing me the lots of subdomains. Now it might be possible that there will be false positive, but I will check all the subdomains which are valid and collect it for the further research purpose. Now, it is not good idea to rely on a one tool. Just to give you an idea, I was running the uh, scan using the NotPy as well. So I'm getting two different tools output for the subdomain enumeration. Now, instead of two tools, you can utilize more than two tools, different tools to get these subdomains. So this enumeration part is to get the as much as information about the target so that you can cover the more attack area to test on the target application. So now after just doing the subdomain enumeration, and for the directory brute forcing, you can use the GoBuster tool, which is used for brute forcing the directories. You can look for the directory listing as well. So this is all in this part. Now, when it comes to the port scanning, there are different tools, but on the VM you will find the Nmap and you can use it. So for that, I have already ran the scan on the scan.nmap.org. Just to mention you guys, this scanme.nmap.org, the domain is hosted, subdomain is hosted by the Nmap tool, and it is just for the education purpose. So please don't try to tamper with it and make so many requests at a time. So simply, if you will run, it will show you the result something like this. So it is saying like TCP port is open. Don't go ahead and try anything on this website. Just it is to test and show you a demo of the Nmap, like how does it work, and it uses the port. Port 80 is open, and it is saying that 9929 is open and some other. So this is how you can use the Nmap to scan the uh, you know services and the ports. So if some port is open and it is running some service on that, like as on port 2020 it is running the SSH service. Similarly, it might run some admin dashboard on a particular port, and it might be possible that you scan the target and you reach to a point where you can get you can have the access to the dashboard, and you can try to access and get the privilege to use that. Now, this is the one of the case study where the attacker was able to, find the open port, and using that open port, it was doing the information disclosure. So you can go ahead later on and read this case study. Now, next comes is the mapping the web applications. Mapping the web application means you are using each and every functionality of the application in and out. And for mapping the web application, what you can do, you can use the spider in the burp and try to use each and every functionality, and just keep the turn on the traffic capturing in the burp, so that when you will visit each and every functionality, you will get the tree structure inside the here. You will get the tree structure here. You will get all the URLs in the sitemap. So it will make the record of all the requests which is collected by the requests and URLs collected by the spider, and like crawling a feature of the burp, and manually visited URLs. Then later on you can just go ahead and just try to analyze all the requests and response here. So this is all about the mapping using the application. Now next comes is the finding the low-hanging fruits. It is all about simplest and easiest to and take less efforts. So we'll first discuss about the cross-site scripting. Then we'll see how we can test for the what is cross-site request forgery and how we can test it. And then we'll see some of the session-related issues. And then we'll get to know about the case studies. Now, cross-site scripting is a client-side injection vulnerability, and what it is like, it is an injection type where if the user is injecting some payload in say in the input or any URL format input, it goes to the server and the response comes back with the same injected payload. There is no modification with the response. Uh, I mean, the response means the injected payload. It is reflecting as it was going in the input and as it is coming in the output. So now what happens is browser does not understand is it a malicious JavaScript or a good JavaScript. So what happens if the attacker is giving a malicious JavaScript payload, it goes to the server, and from server, if it is not sanitized, input sanitization is not done, and output encoding is not happening. So what in that case, what will happen, the payload will directly come to the browser, and browser that will not understand, and it will execute the JavaScript. So there are different categories of the accesses. uh, One is the reflected, store, DOM based, and the blind accesses. In reflected in store, what happens, you see the pop-up, and also in the DOM based. In reflected, when you give the input and it reflected back to you uh, the output. It means if you are injecting a malicious payload, it will reflect back to you at the same time. And stored, what happens when you will store, when you will give the input, it will be stored somewhere in the web application, and whenever some other user is visiting the same place, or you are visiting the same page again, then it will be popped up. In DOM, what happens, DOM is for the document object model, and what happens is if the DOM is not properly handling the user input, in that case what happens, uh, it is possible that the user might input the vulnerable or the malicious payload, and the DOM can execute that without sanitizing or output encoding. In DOM, what happens, request does not go to the server, so it happens at the client side only. Now next comes is the blind accesses. Blind accesses is a kind of the stored accesses, but in this case what happens, when you give the input payload, uh, you does not get to know like the payload has been executed or not. So we test the blind accesses at those places where we have a strong feeling like that he like that the input will be going to an admin panel or somewhere, some higher authority or admin or some privileged user will be seeing the input given by the user. So for example, the contact form is one of them, uh, where you can fill the contact details and it will go to the admin. It might be possible like if you give the blind accesses payload inside the password, and it might be possible the passwords are not handled properly in background. So in that case also, you can get the blind accesses fired. And there are some of the bunch of things that you can go ahead and read from the different reports about the blind accesses, what are the case scenarios were there. And so how you can test for the blind accesses, so there is called utility accesses hunter that you can use. It is free to use. So what happens is it is having the different payloads, so you can use one of them one by one, depending on the scenario, and you can just give the as an input. And whenever, suppose in the contact form, in a message, if you set this payload and the person or admin who is sitting in background and checking that contact form manually, and if he clicks on the link, so the access hunter will show you uh, GUI output here with the token and from where the request was generated. So like this, you can use this to find the uh, and test the blind accesses. Now when we come to the reflected accesses, as I was saying, like input goes and it comes to the client without modified. So hello, if I say now it is coming as it is. If I see the source code, find hello, all right, hello, hello, two times hello. Okay, fine. Now I want to give the some special characters which can be used to construct a payload. Now see if it is on, it is showing here, but let's see on the, okay, so it is as it is coming. So now what I will do, I will try to use a script and see. So what was happening, the input was going and it was not sanitized, and output encoding was not happening. And when the client receives the you know response from the server, this browser will execute whatever input, whatever response it gets from the uh, server, and show you the output. Similarly, in the case of the stored accesses, what can happen is, if you are testing the application, you test it in a same way. You give the normal input, you try to give the special characters, and if you try to give the SRIP script alert script. So instead of the special characters, if you try to give the you know script payload, it will take it and it will give you the pop-up. All right, that is fine once it is popped up, but now if you will visit again, it will show you the pop-up. So similarly, suppose if it is a social networking site and you post an comment with the XSS payload, so in that case what will happen, it will impact the all the users who are visiting that particular comment page. So what can happen if XSS is used? So it might be possible that the attacker can hijack the session by stealing the cookies or session using the XSS. So this is the impact of the XSS. Uh, so next comes is the CSRF, that's also known as cross-site request forgery. It's a process of executing unwanted actions on a web application in which the user is already logged in. So in this process, attacker uses a malicious link and send it to the victim. And once the victim clicks on that link, uh, the victim unknowingly make a forged request to the server. So let's take an example to understand it more. So here is a example of the pay.example.com. It is a website which allows you to share the coins with the friends. So now, uh, what is the case scenario here? So attacker wants to get the 100 coins from the victim's account. So in that case, what will happen? Attacker will share a malicious link to the victim, and once the victim will click on that malicious link, he will unknowingly make the request to the attacker.com, and this attacker.com is hosted by the attacker, and this is having some piece of code, and it will send this piece of code as a response to the victim. Once the victim browser will receive this uh, content or code in the browser will execute it. And once it will execute, so what it will do is it will transfer the or share the 100 coins with the hunter username, which is the attacker here. So once the browser will receive this code, it will execute and it will make the request to the pay.example.com. So in this case, what will happen? It will transfer the 100 coins to the attacker unknowingly. So this is how the CSR works. So mostly it happens where the state change is happening, or some action is happening, like transferring the amount, transferring the coins, or deleting the password, updating the password. These are the places for look for the CSRF, mostly at the state changing actions or the places. So how do we test for the CSRF? So first we check if the application is using any CSRF token or not. If it is not using, then it is vulnerable to the CSRF, and the attacker can try to trick the victim for making the force request to the server. And now if the application is using the CSRF token, so in that case there are different you know tries you can test. So first, if the token is there, you don't modify anything, just send the request and see the expected response. And after this, if that works well, remove this CSRF token completely from the request and see the response. If it works, then that it means it is vulnerable to CSRF. And if you modify the one character in the token, and if it still accepts it, and after accepting it is processing the request without any problem, that means it is vulnerable to CSRF. You can remove the value completely and keep the just parameter name, that CSRF token parameter name as it is. If that is the case, that's also indicates that it is vulnerable to the CSRF. Now you can try to change the method to get, and if it works well with that as well, so that means it is vulnerable to the CSRF, and we can try to exploit it by making exploit using a form or some other methods. So let's understand it on a with an example. So as you see here, I have the DVWA. You can go to the app menu, and from the menu, you can go to the applications. From here, you can start, and you will see the dashboard like this. So to log in into DVWA, the password is admin, and not the username is admin and password is password. Once I will click, I will be logged in. So now, if you see here, I see the, so what I will do, I will keep it to low, and I'll come to the CSRF. So now here we already have the password is password. So now what I will do, I want to check the request of this, because it is a state changing action will happen here, like it will change the password. So I will try to capture the request of this. So I'll go to the intercept, and I'll just enter the new password, which is 12 and 12. And just to observe it, I'll click on change, and okay, send it to repeater. As you can see, it does not contain any CSRF token with the request. So that means we can directly try to exploit the CSRF here, because it is not using any CSRF token to protect against it. So what I will do, I will just go to the repeater and forward it. Okay, so now if I log out, because I have changed the password to 12, if I will log out, let me turn off the intercept first. Now if I try to log in using the admin and the password 12, I'm able to log in, right? So now what I will do, so what I have done is, already I have created a CSRF exploit for this particular scenario. So if I see, so here I'm having a form. What it does is it makes an action, it performs an action when we click on a button. So once I will click on the button, what it will do, it will take the value of password this and this. And what this particular URL here is doing, it is changing the password of the account, particular account. So this is the simple HTML form which we are using to change the passwords. So now the value of the password here is, as you can see, let me increase the size of this so that you can see the value. All right, let me go with this. The value of the password is 12345, as you can see from here as directly. Now what I will do, I will open it in the browser. Instead of hosting it on the server, I'm just using it in the same browser. So now what will happen is, once I will click on change, it will do some action, and it has redirected me to the this DVWA dashboard, and it says passwords changed. Now if I try to log out and use the password admin, and the previous password which we were using was the 12, but I'm not able to log in. But now if I try to use the password which has been used in the CSRF exploit, I should be able to log in. So I'm inside the application now. So what happened here is, the attacker, I'm the attacker. So what I did, I sent a URL with the HTML form, and once the user clicks on that link, it will change the password of that particular user. So similarly, for these kind of state changing actions, you can check for the CSRF, like deleting a post and updating a post, similar many other actions. And for the mitigation of the CSRF, what you can do is, you can use the CSRF token with each request and make sure to validate it at the server side. As we have seen, there are different cases where the application uses the token, but it is not validated at the server side. So it is necessary to make sure it is validated at the server side. So that's all about the CSRF. And you can go ahead and try to test for the CSRF in different web applications, as the WebZground has the different application like DVWA, XVWA, BWAP, and for the SQL injection, SQL Lab is there. You can go ahead and try to exploit the issues, understand how they are working, what is the concept of that. So these are the things. Now comes the session related issues, like what are the session issues can be present in an application. So for that, we can check if the data is stored, like the credentials are stored unprotected, and we can see if the credentials are sent over an unencrypted channel. Now also you can check when you log in the application and log out, and then again you log in, it should recreate the session whenever you log in the application. If it is not happening, that means it is vulnerable to the session issue. And if the token is going in the URL, that also comes under the session related issues, because if some other server logs the URL, that server user can see session token, and using that session token, the attacker can or that person can hijack the session. And if check if the session IDs are getting invalidated after the logout, and if the session IDs are not getting invalidated, and if someone else can use the same session ID, so they will be able to use the session after the logout as well. So these are the some issues in the session related, and there are some of the attributes that can be used to make sure the session is protected. It uses the HTTP only. It makes sure that the cookies are sent or no sent securely, and it what it does is it does not allow the JavaScript to use the API called the document.cookie. So it does not provide the access to the JavaScript to the cookies, and it uses another attribute known as the secure attribute. It sends the cookies only over the encrypted channel. So these are the issues, and some of the uh, attributes like HTTP only, secure, domain, and path, and similar other attributes can be used to make sure the session uh, is secure. And these are the mentioned problems. Uh, uh, Make sure the application is not having these kind of issues. If the session is not created, then the developer should use the mechanism to regenerate the session after each login. Now, these are the case studies for the session related issues.
So the part 2 ends here. Now in part 3, we will be covering slightly higher hanging fruits, the IDOR and the SSRF, and we'll see the case studies for those as well. So IDOR stands for the insecure direct object reference. To understand it, let's take an example of the student portal, result portal, where students log in and see their results. Now, if student 1 logs in using the username and password, it gets an ID in the URL, which is the 1001. Similarly, if the user 2 logs in and using the username password, he gets the ID 1002. Similarly, the user 3 use the credentials to log in and he gets the ID 1003. So now here, suppose if the student 1 logs into the portal, and if we try to tamper with the ID parameter, so instead of giving his own ID, if he replaces his ID with the other student, which is the student 2, and it replaces the ID equal to 1002. So in that case, if the student 1 is able to access the result of the student 2, then it's an insecure direct object reference. And how we can test for the IDOR? So for testing the IDOR, you should use the two accounts for testing purpose. Uh, One might work as a victim, and one might work as a attacker. So for using two accounts, you need to use the two different browsers, or what you can do, you can use the same browser. One, you can use a normal browser, and another private browser you can use in that. So one can behave as the attacker and another is the victim. And then try to find out the IDs in the requests and try to change with the another user. If you are able to access the data, then it's IDOR. But the exploitation part depends on the complexity of the generated IDs.
Now next is the SSRF, server-side request forgery. So what happens is the vulnerable server makes the request to the other servers on the behalf of the attacker. That means if some web application server is vulnerable and attacker is using that application, so what attacker can do is attacker can give the instructions to the web application, the vulnerable web application which he is using, and on behalf of the attacker, that vulnerable server will make the request to the other servers. So by using this vulnerability, it can do the port scanning, read the file of the web servers, it can read the resources which are not accessible to public, and it can abuse the relationship between the vulnerable server and others. So how we can test for the SSRF? So generally, uh, it's a good idea to look for the application functionalities which are dealing with the URLs and external services. And for example, the application which deals with the uploading the image URL, image by using the URL. So in that case, we can try to test it if is it vulnerable to the SSRF or XSPA. So this is all about the SSRF. You can, whenever you are testing the application, you can go ahead and check for the URLs inside the application. And these are the two case studies. You can go ahead and read about these. So as we are getting uh, very less time, so we won't be able to cover the case studies in this duration. But if you have any doubt regarding any of the topics, please feel free to ping in the chat, and or feel free to drop us a query on the mentioned mail ID in the starting. So now the Parveen will be covering the next part, which is the automating web application testing using Burp Suite extensions. So now it's over to you, Parveen.
Hi everyone, hope you all are doing good and staying indoors. Today I will be discussing about what are the advantages of using Bubsoost extensions and how these extensions can help in doing the web application testings. So basically our topic of the talk is automating web application testing using Bubsoost extensions. Why we use it, what are the benefits of it, what are the extensions which are being used in pro, and which are the free community version extensions, and how they can be useful in your testing. So basically the what Bob extensions does is basically they will help you speed up your application testing. It will be easy and help you do the testing in a seamless and a smart way. It will be time saving to to safeguard some of the security issues which you can identify in a manual testing, but that can be helpful in identifying the specific test cases which can be helpful, and they will identify the specific parameters which can be helpful in manually explore further. So basically there are some specific extensions which will we will go after it soon, but before going forward we will look into how the how to set up the burp suite extensions, and what are the prerequisites which we can go ahead and set it up. So basically you can set install and download these burp suite extensions from the Bab Store. And Bab Store is available under the extender functionality of the Burp Suite. In Bab Store, you can go and see all the specific extensions which are available. You need to just click on the specific extensions. You will be able to see the install button, and you can just click on it, and it will be installed in your Burp Suite extensions. But before doing that, you have to go into the extender options, and you have to basically give the path of the Java environment where your Java is loaded. You have to give the Python. So basically, to if you want to use the Python based extensions, you have to download a Jython standalone.jar, which will be basically help you run the Bubstore extensions, which are basically help you run in the Bubstore environment. Also, there are some tools extensions which are being made in Ruby environment. So to use those, we have to download the JRuby standalone jar file, and you have to give the path over here to get it done. So these are the specific things which you have to do it before installing everything, or before installing any of the Bubstore extensions. I will follow one by one extensions which are being useful in your testings, and I have been specifically mentioned the tools which are being used in only in Pro, which are the tools which are being used in uh, community version as well. And I will also help you understand about what are the useful test cases of each and extensions which are being. I am only explaining the tools which I do use and which can be helpful in your testing. Of course, there are multiple extensions, burp extension, which can be useful in a different test cases, different scenarios. But these are the basic things which help you figure out the low hanging fruits, figure out the some specific parameters which can be useful. So we will look into that step by step, and how we can move it forward and how to test this. So let's go step by step from the first place. Okay, so we have .NET Beautifier. So basically what .NET Beautifier does is, for example, if you're testing a .NET based application, so in .NET based application, you will always see parameters like view state. Okay, in view state parameters, sometimes the values are encrypted, sometimes it's not encrypted, and you will be able to see the clear text data. And so basically what this tool does, it will beautify the request which is going with the view state parameters, and you will be able to understand, okay, what are the parameters values which are being used. And by using as we know all that we need to understand the parameters which are going in each and every request, so that we can manipulate the specific things and plug and play with that. So this is a very useful tool which you can use while testing the applications which are being made in .NET. And using that you can identify, okay, what are the specific things which are going as specific request, and it will help you further. Then we have active scan plus plus. So basically these tools is will or do the passive reckoning, as well as identify the specific issues like host header poisoning, XML input handling, how the inputs are handling. So basically it will check the passive scanners, and on the basis of that it will try to identify, okay, these are the specific endpoints which might be vulnerable to these kind of vulnerabilities. It also checks for some specific CVEs like CV2014, 6271, and all these uh, CVEs. Also, it provides insertion points for the HTTP basic authentications. So basically, it will check the host header checks tamper with the host header, which may result in requests being routed to different applications on the same host. So basically, these tools you can definitely go ahead and use, and it's a very helpful tool which will be definitely will be helpful in your testing. Apart from that, so basically this tool is being only used in Burp Pro version, but definitely it is being useful. Then we can use additional CSRF checks. So basically this what this tool does is it will identify and check what are the specific if there is any in each and every request, if there is any CSRF token going into the parameters, if there is identify using refer headers, or if by changing some post to put or put to delete, or if using that, if we can identify and bypass some specific CSRF checks. So it will mention in the I mean, using this, you can identify the CSRF checks into the specific requests which are being involved or not. Then we have additional scanner checks like DOM-based access, missing HTTP headers like coax, SIG transport security, XCONtent type option, access protections. So basically, these are the basic things which we can identify manually as well. But for example, if you're in a hurry and you have to find out the login issues, you don't have to look into it. It will be definitely will be there in your target tab. So basically, it this extensions is generally used in Burp Suite Pro, and in Burp Suite Pro, these the issues which are being identified, they will be listed under the target tab in the issues list. In the issues list, they will, the issues will be there, like the access protection is not enabled, and interaction is happening. So all these instances or the issues which are being identified the specific scanners, and by the specific additional scanner checks as well, they will be included over there as well. Then we have specific extension like AES payloads, which can basically identify if there is any AES based encryption is not happening, and if there is also allow encryption and decryption of the AES payloads in burp intruder or the scanners, and it will help you figure out the things. Then we have asset discovery. So basically this tool is also extension is also being used in Burp Pro version, and what this tool does is it will identify the extra assets and the domain IP. And so basically how it works is it basically does the passive scanning, and while we browse any applications, or while the browsing an application, they obviously they download some certain JS files, some other informations, and by doing that passive analysis, discovery identifies the specific subdomains, IP, or if there is any APIs which are being invoked, and that will be going to be listed into the asset discovery. And again, like I mentioned earlier as well, they will be listed under the uh, issues tab list, and because this tool is being used only in Bubsuit professional version. Then we have attack surface detectors. So basically, doing the application testing, it is it is important to enumerate application attack surface, and so basically, this extension will basically identify those specific endpoints and the parameters which we generally do not test, or we generally being in the response only, and we don't we are not forgot to check the specific response, and we are not able to identify specific parameters. So this tool will identify those specific parameters where the client code is invoked, or maybe the specific endpoint is going in the hyperlink or something like that. So on the base it supports these specific frameworks, and using in this they will identify the specific endpoints and work over the same. Then we have Auth Matrix tool. So basically, it's an extension which basically tests for authorization related attacks, and it basically focus on the. So basically, it will help us identify the checks the user role hierarchy, and using this we can test it. So basically, it's a free of cost tool, and it's available in the community version as well, and you can go and you just need to click on the install button, and you will be able to install it, and you can use while you are testing it. So basically then we have OZ. So basically this extension is also being used to test for authorization related vulnerabilities. We just need to right click on any of the requests which are being so we are intercepting, and instead we just need to send it to the OZ, and basically we just need to modify the values of the cookie, and it will using the modified cookie, it will check whether these are being these are specific authorization issues are being there or not. So then now we have a specific a very good tool by autorize. So basically what autorize does is we just have to basically the tools yes it to the same tools, it checks the authorization related vulnerabilities in a in the web application. So basically it is sufficient to give the extension the cookie of the low privilege user and navigate the website we have with high privilege user. So basically what we need to do is we will be browsing our website with a high privilege user, and before browsing with the high privilege user we have to give the low privilege cookie to the to our extensions. In the extension there will be a we can go ahead and so if you see in the here we go ahead and add this cookie value. For example, cookie equals to uh, some low level user vulnerable cookies. So basically here we need to append the low level user cookies, and we just need to browse it through the high level user, and using this, and when well by browsing the specific URLs, it auto what autovise will do is it will identify, I mean it will also check those specific requests and endpoints with these lower level cookies as well, and will see if it is being able to identify the if there's any authorization related issues or not. So if the issues are being if the application is unable to authorization related attacks, then it will be showed up in the red color, and if it is not, authorization is properly implemented, it will be shown in the green colors. So it's a very so for example, if you have a web application which are very big application in scope, and we have to test thoroughly for each and every endpoints for checking the authorization related task. For example, if we have seen in some cases where the authorization is involved, and authorization is being implemented in few of the functionalities, but developers might have forgot adding the authorization related test cases to specific functionalities. So in for example 100,000 plus pages of applications, we cannot go and check each and every functionality for the authorization. If you want to go and check, then definitely it is going to be or it will definitely going to be a take a hell lot of time for us, and it will increase our security timeline as well. So sometimes we all have deadlines to complete our testing, some deadline to identify the bugs, so that we can report it as soon as possible in bug bounty, and just to stay safe from the duplicates which we generally get in bug bounty. So using this tool, we can definitely go ahead and checks for that, and definitely it's a very amazing tool to work with. Then we have AWS Signer tool. Basically, it's an extension. You need to just add your access key, secret key, region, and service, and we are using that. It will generate AWS Signer. AWS sign. And so basically, for example, this will be helpful in a use case where one of your application URL is sending the AWS signer request, and for example, if a file is being downloaded, and you can in to download that specific file, there's always a AWS signer request parameter is going, and you can just implement just basically include one more header sorry signer from here, and append it over there. Then we have backslash powered scanner. So basically, it's a great tool by James Kettle from Portswigger Web Security team. And basically, what it does, it identifies the specific vulnerabilities, class of vulnerabilities like server-side injection vulnerabilities and WAF evasions and other informations. So basically, it have its own engine to identify some specific issues, but these are being again, this tool is also being extensions is also only being used in pro version only. Then we have beanstack stack trace fingerprint error. So basically it will identify the trace errors which we generally get, and it will list down it under the again in the issues tab of the pro version. Then we have Blazor. So basically, this extension can be used to generate and fuzz custom AMF messages. And by fuzzing, it will identify the specific jar file request and response. It will fuzz that and modify. We can modify that as well, and we can obviously try for finding out some of the vulnerabilities which we generally have. So now next we have is beta bob to frida bridge. So basically, again, this tool is being used also, as you already know, that frida how why we use frida to bypass some specific restrictions in the application, sorry, in the mobile applications. So we use that to create a bridge between bob to frida and brida. So to do that, we can utilize this specific tool extensions, and this is definitely being, and best part is it's being used for your, I mean it's a community version, so we can add this as well. And you can also see the working of this tool in the specific slides and videos as well. Then we have broken link hijacking. So basically sometimes we have seen that in a web application there are some links which are being not in use anymore, and those links are broken. So whenever a user go ahead and click on that, they will not be able to click on that because that specific link is expired or maybe not working at that time. And an attacker can use that specific links to create a specific website, specific pages. For example, if there is Facebook, so there's a page of specific web application, like for example facebook.com slash xyz.com. Okay, and that xyz.com page name is in being hyperlink or in some of the website which are being used. And but due to some reason the xyz.com Facebook links is broken, and so basically what an attacker can do is it can go ahead and create a specific URL page of that specific name as well. And when a user click on the specific website, and because the hyperlink is over there in the pages, it will be visible, and the user will be directed to that specific page. So in that case, basically this tool is being very helpful, and it will identify in your website what are the links which are being broken. And of course this is a very low finding issues, but the main motive of ours is to identify these low hanging fruits by using some extensions. So definitely it's a big plus for using this in our tools. Then we have Bob Smart Buster. So basically this extension discovers the um, specific directories which are being involved in our application. So basically it will brute force it's have his own custom list, and it will discover the contents in a smart way. And you just have to install it, and you can run it over a specific target. You just need to go and click on that specific target, and you will be able to see the specific if there is any files or the directories which are being by default or by mistake being leaked or being in, there in the specific target list. So this is definitely a big tool in the recon tab you can use, and it will definitely help out. Then we have a tool named as Collaborator Everywhere. So basically what Collaborator does is it will start sending a request with a specific headers list. So for example, so basically this tool will use the specific headers like XHTTP headers, X forward headers, and it will try to identify if the request if the server is sending a specific request to our specific servers. And if we get any hit, then we can explore it further to test, for example, SSRF and other related vulnerabilities. Then we have a command injection attacker. So basically what this extension does is it will checks. So for example, so to use this extension, you have to click on any of the requests and check for click on command injection actors. So basically it will go and check for any command injection related issues. By so how it is going to be used is basically it will check for it will and some specific payloads in the request, and on the basis of request and detecting the responses, it will identify whether the attack command injection attack is possible or not. Then we have content type converter. So basically this tool is helpful for us while testing for specific related test cases. For example, if we need to convert the for example, if we have a request from which is going in post and the data is going in JSON, but we need to test the XML functionality, and if we need to check whether the XML data which we are sending is going, and if the server is identifying that specific content type and giving us a specific response which we need to do so, we just need to click on in the request and click on JSON to XML or XML to JSON, and it will convert it to for example, if it is in JSON, then it will convert it to XML, and we will be able to see it, and we can explore further for any specific XML related issues. And this is definitely, so basically this generally helps us while testing the XSE issues and XML external entity injections. Also, apart from this can also being helpful doing the XML injections and all. Apart from that, we have other issues as well, like CSF scanner. So basically this scanner is also being used to test the scanner CSF related issues. It will again also check for the if there is any specific requests which are being going without any CSF tokens, and it will basically list down that specific request in the issues tab. And yeah, again it's it's only available in Bub Pro version. Then we have decoder improved. Basically, decoder improved is a uh, good tool, which are being. So basically, what it does is it will improve the functionality of decoder which we have in uh, Bubsuit by default, like this. But basically it's an advanced version of that, and it will help us identify how to figure it out and how to test the specific. For example, if there's a MD5, if there's any base64 files is there, then it will identify how to forget, I mean how to change, decode the specific URLs, how to decode a hash, how to decode a base64 values, how to decode SHA-26. So there will be a specific extensions, we can encode it as well. And if we know to decode it, we can go ahead and decode it as well. So we can like there are specific plain URL, HTML, base64. You want to decode a base64, if you want to decode a skyhex, if you want to decode a gg file and glib file, we can directly go ahead and click on these and it will be decoded. So these are the specific tools, I mean the major tools which I'm just invoking. Apart from there are other tools as well, which we can. These are so many extensions which you can utilize as per your applications and as per your requirement. Then we have our tool name, again the error messages check. So basically it will check for error in error messages, for example detailed server error or any kind of error which are being disclosed in Java based application, a .NET based application, or whether it's in a PHP based application. So basically it will checks in all the requests and responses which we are browsing or manually going through, or if you are doing any testing sort of thing, then it will identify, okay, these are the specific errors which are being invoked by the application, and it will list down it again in the issues tab, because again it's only available in Burp Pro version. So these are the things which we can locate it around it. Then we have file upload traverser. So basically this extension will check for the if the file, if the specific files are application is vulnerable to direct traversal vulnerability. And so basically using this tool we can identify, okay, how we can explore it further. Then we have specific like tools like Hackverter. So basically Hackverter is again a tool which are being used to support various escapes and encoding thing using HTML5 syntax, hex, octal, Unicode, URL encoding. And so basically this tool will be help us to use using if you want to encode our payload in HTML5 hex or octal, or if you want to encode it in a Unicode or URL based schema, we can encode it, and we can provide our disk encoded or the Unicode format in our specific payload or specific parameters to test a specific vulnerability. For example, generally it being we use it mostly in SQL while testing SQL injection vulnerabilities. Then it is definitely being helps a lot of doing the same. Then there's again a gate tool, HTTP request smuggler. So basically this will checks HTTP request smuggling issues in the applications which are being which are tested. So basically for using this application, you just need to click on the specific request, and then you will be able you need to right click on a specific request, and then you will be able to see a option and request a test for HTTP request smuggler, and you will be able to test that out. Then we have Heartbleed extension. So basically it will test for a Heartbleed related vulnerabilities in a specific applications, and it will list down in the it will list down it will you will be able to identify if there is any Heartbleed related vulnerabilities over there in the in your application, and you can go and test it. Then we have hunt scanner. So basically it will do the passive scanning. So it will basically navigate or spider the application. It will basically map the application hierarchy in a specific way, and it will be very useful while we test on a big applications. Then we have INQL introspection GraphQL scanner. So basically what it does is it will identify the specific GraphQL endpoints, and after identifying the GraphQL endpoints, it will checks if there is any specific metadata are being installed, what are the queries or mutation or subscriptions are being involved in a specific endpoint, and using the same you can try to do the inspection and try to send a specific request and response to the servers by. So basically it's being visible in your scanner as well. From here you can go and check the specific extensions endpoints which are using the GraphQL. You just need to click over there, and apart from this as well, it will also list down, you can manually go and add the request and response, and it will be, you can basically identify the specific uh, parameters which are being invoked, and it you you can modify it as well on the request as well, and from there you can proceed it further for your testing, and you can test for specific issues like SQL injection in GraphQL, which are being pretty common nowadays because the developer tends to forget about the vulnerabilities which are being used, and you can go and further work towards it. So these are the main motive of explaining these kind of issues, is just to let you know that okay, these are the specific, using just by using these specific extensions we can help speed up our work. We can, it will help us uh, doing work in a easy way and smart way, and we don't have to focus in the small low hanging fruits. It will be visible it in our tag issues tab, and yeah, so these are the the things which can be definitely helpful. So then we have J2E scan. So basically it will check for J2E applications, test on J2E applications, and it will test for these specific CVEs, specific issues which are being there. But again, this specific tool is only being used in the pro version, but definitely it is being helpful for you to test these specific CVEs or the vulnerabilities, which can definitely helpful for you to test further. And then we have this JSON web token attacker. So basically, we generally see the JWT token which are being sent in our request. And in JWT token, we will be we will need to do some specific test cases to identify whether by changing the JWT parameter values, we can do some attacks, or we can do some changes in our JWT, and by doing that, if we can bypass the authorization of a specific application, or maybe we can retrieve some PII information by changing the parameter values. So this generally what it does, it will basically help you out figure out the JSON base. It will check for none based attack. It will check for signature based issues which are being generally available in, I mean, we have in JWT. And apart from the, then we have JSON web tokens as well. It again, it works the same way. It will again reassign the JWT value. It will provide the signature checks. It will change it to none, and the CV, again the CV which is being assigned to JWT. It will check for that specific issues, and it go, and then you can go and check for that. You don't have to go manually go and test for modify the specific values. It will by default go and check for the specific things. So basically it's again the free, so you can just install it. Now we have one great tool, Logger plus plus. So basically Logger plus plus is the great tool which community where people can help you out. So basically in Bob community version we will not be able to save our logs. So basically due to that many of us we who don't have the Bob Pro version can just sometimes miss the specific request and response. And for example, if you want to going out for some time and coming back for doing the testing, and by that time your maybe burp hangs up, or maybe your burp instance is closed for some due to some reasons, and then your whole testing and whole request and history will be removed because you don't have permissions to store your request and response. So basically it's again a free community version download. You just need to install it, and all the requests and response which are going through your history, it the all the requests will be saved in this tool. And you just need to click on that install feature, and it will be installed in the tab, and you will be able to basically save the specific all this specific request and response in a CSV file, and you can use that CSV file further while you're coming back to the burp suite, or while you're coming back for to do some further test cases. So yeah, so these are the these this will again will be very helpful doing the testing. Then we have Nmap parser. So basically this section provides a GI interface for parsing the Nmap output files. It's free, you can utilize this as well. Then we have a PHP object injection check. This extension basically adds an active scan check for finding PHP object injection related vulnerabilities. So as it is available in the Pro version, you can this if the application is vulnerable to PHP object injection checks, it will be visible under the issues tab only. Then we have a gate tool, gate extension, again like reflective parameters. So what reflective parameter does is, so while we browse an application using a burp suite as a proxy between, so basically what it will analyze all the requests and the response, and while analyzing the request it will identify the parameters which are being reflected in the response. And using this tool we will it will list down only those specific requests and responses, and then which are being which might be vulnerable to cross-site scripting. And it will list down all the requests and response which are basically um, reflecting some parameters in the response. So the main way of finding cross-site scripting issue is to identify the reflective parameters in a particular request, or and then only we will be able to do the cross-site scripting, because that is the main first goal of testing the XSS. So basically it will help you identify those specific parameters which might be vulnerable and which are being reflected in the applications. So by that you can get a huge list of parameters which are being might be vulnerable to cross-site scripting, and this will helpful for you to test big scope. Then we have some SAML editors. So for example, while doing the testing, sometimes we get SML messages, and so generally the SAML is in a specific format. So basically this will using this two extensions, it will be we will be able to see identify the SML messages, and we'll be able to modify that as well. Again, we have same tool like SML Radar. So basically it will check for specific SML related issues, and we will be able to identify those specific issues in that. Then we have session timeout test. So basically this session timeout test, what it does is it will basically checks for session related how much time it will take to uh, for an application to do a timeout. So basically it will check, for example, if an application is only available for if you're idle for quite a time, and if you're not doing anything, then it will test for a specific time of whether this specific application is uh, online without any not online, the I mean the basically it will check whether the session is getting expired within 10 minutes, within 20 minutes, within 30-minute time frame, within a 1 hour frame. So basically in a banking application, we generally, if the user is not active, or a user is idle for maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes, so the application will be logged out itself. So these kind of test cases which can automated using a session timeout test, and these are the low hanging fruits which we can generally identify. Then we have an extension named as software vulnerability scanner. So basically, again, this will identify the basically softwares or the servers which are being used in a specific target or the web application which you are testing, and it will be listed out under the issues tab, because again, it's an pro version. And then we have SQL query tampering. So basically, this recently released tool by a great author, Hamid Rizai. Sorry if I'm spelling the name wrong. But again, yeah, this tool is basically utilizing some of the amazing payloads which are generally we do to bypass some specific query or specific string. For example, if there is a application which might be vulnerable to SQL injection, then we have some specific evasion techniques which are being there in the this particular extensions, and using these we can manually go and use it's kind of an intruder but with a specific list of payloads, and we'll be able to we'll try to use it and try to bypass any if there's any WAF been involved, or if there's any specific recreation or the whitelisting or blacklisted kind of thing is there, then it will try to bypass those specific things, and we will be able to check for SQL injection vulnerabilities. Then we have SSL scanner. So basically, what it is, SSL scanner does is it will check for some specific ciphers which are being vulnerable to specific vulnerabilities. It will check for SSL related issues. It will check for TLS issues which are being there in a specific application. We don't have to run the nmap and do the scan. Then we just need to install this specific extension, and it will automatically identify the specific ciphers which are vulnerable, or it list down it under the issues tab itself. So basically it will identify these kind of vulnerabilities like SSLv2, SSLv3, Heartbleed, CCS injection, TLS fallback vulnerability, Poodle, Sweet32 Good Drawn, Freak, Lucky 13, Crime, Beast, checking for weak ciphers, breach, logjam. So it will automatically check for these kind of issues. So again, because we all know that we don't have to go and run the nmap, it will be doing it itself, and it will list down the same, and we'll able to identify it. Then we have again a great tool, Taborator. So it's sorry, not Taborator, it's a Turbo Intruder. So basically, Turbo Intruder is a tool. Again, it's a modified version, or not a modified version. It basically it's a new extensions which sends 1,000 plus of requests within a couple of seconds, and it will so basically we generally use it to to do some brute force in a specific time frame. We can and we can utilize it, but we have to use it very carefully, because sometimes because it's sending so many requests in a specific time frame, and it might result in DDoSing the application, and application might be get down because of this using our this tool, because it sends a hell lot of requests. Then we have Wayback Machine extension. So basically what Wayback extension machines, the extension does it will check for specific web applications, what is the application structure or web application directives were there at specific time frame, maybe for example before 1 year, before 2 year, or even before 1 month. So Wayback is basically open source web application where we can go and see which are the files and directives are there before 1 year or before 1 month, and we can then try to access those specific paths and values, and then we can go ahead and test it accordingly. So I have listed down all these extensions which are being useful while testing it. Of course, there are other some specific some specific extensions which are being used in a different set of ways, or different set of applications altogether, so you can use it accordingly. All the extensions are available in Burp Suite extender. You can go and check and install it. Then there are some specific extensions which are being used by specific researchers, for example, like Xkeys. So basically what Xkeys does it, for example, we are browsing an web applications, and in JS files, or if in a specific endpoint, or in a specific page, if the application is disclosing some key, information like PII, information like password, information like token values, information like access token, AWS credentials, and other values, which it will be this burp extension with passively work and disclose all those X keys, all those password and other information in our issues tab. So again, the CSF scanner, I already told you about it. Then we have web detect. So basically, it will detect the web. If the web is if the target is using web, then it will detect which web it is, and we can utilize and say see it in our target issues tab. So this will definitely very helpful while testing, because we will be able to identify if there is any specific web application which are being used over here, and we can utilize that information to write further attacks or to do specific test cases. So these are very helpful while testing it. So these are the only extensions which definitely we can go ahead and use it while testing it, and this will definitely help you speed up your task in web application testing. It's a great way to learn about it. So you can just go ahead and learn from different tools or different extensions you can use to speed up your task, and we don't have to manually go and check for specific small low hanging bugs. You just need to be there, and you will be able to identify it, all the issues. So this is it from my side. If there's any issues, please feel free to ask me now. I will be there available for next 15-20 minutes. You can please feel free to ask me any questions, and I'm happy to answer those questions. If you are facing some any errors or any issues using these extension, feel free to ping me, and I will definitely help you out resolve those issues. Thank you, and have a nice day.
Thank you so much, Parveen, for giving your insights on the Burp Suite extensions. It was really nice. So now, next part is where we can go next. So next thing is it's all about reading, learning, and practicing, and documenting. So the one of the thing is when you are reading about something, uh, make sure you are making a note. So later on, whenever you are forgetting it, or you want to refresh it again, you can refer the document instead of googling and going through the different blogs. That will be more time consuming. If you have your own notes or documents, you can quickly refer them and keep learning regularly. And whatever you are learning, make sure you are practicing that. And to 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 be, be updated, you can follow the people on the Twitter, as everybody suggests that it's the best place to be up to date. But if someone is completely new and they are getting distracted, so I would say follow the OWASP top 10. Starting, follow that, get the understanding of the web application security, and use the WebZground to practice the concepts and try to implement the concepts on the web application which are locally present in the VM. And remember, the community is awesome. Whenever you will ask someone for help, or if you are not understanding any topic from the official document, always feel free to ping any person in the community. I, as per my experience, they will love to help you. It might be possible they might be busy somewhere, and it might take some time to respond you back. But yeah, definitely they will be happy to help you. So I would say stay away from the distractions. Internet is full of these distractions. Use the WebZground. In upcoming release, we will be adding the documents and roadmap, how you can follow the path to learn the web application security. We will try to make a blueprint, and then once you will get the basic understanding, then everybody makes their own methodology or their own way of doing the web application security hacking. The concepts will be the same, but yeah, the applying the concepts, the way of thinking changes according to the methodology. So these are the resources as of now you can follow. Uh, how you can become the bug bounty hunter. There is a bug hunters methodology that you can follow, which is a really nice one. And there is a researcher's guide, like how you can follow and learn about the web application security. And then comes the collection of the bug bounty write-ups. This is really interesting. You will get the good idea of the concepts, and you will have a creative mind when you will read the different write-ups about the bug bounties, because you'll get to know the different ideas, how people are working and what different they are doing, and the way of thinking you will change. And here are some of the free labs and free content to learn. And there is the list of the vulnerabilities, and there is a OWASP testing guide, which is the official guide for the web application security. You can go ahead and refer that. And one of the most important thing is finding the motivation for the bug bounties or learning the web application security. So if you are in the you want to start in the bug bounties, the first thing is you need to find your motivation. And now there is only one motivation doing the bug bounties. Mostly I have seen, and which is the earning. So there are two ways to reach to the earning. First, learning for earning. That means whatever you are learning just for the sake of the money. Now, second way is you are earning while learning. So what happens is you are not focusing on the earning. You are just learning, and the earning is happening on the way. So there are two different approaches. So I would say follow the learning and the earning, because when you will keep learning, don't think about the money, keep doing your work, keep learning, and eventually you will be good with the concepts, and you will be able to do the good research, and you will be able to find the good bugs. And don't expect more. Whatever you are doing, if you are doing the bug bounties, make sure, keep in mind that you are doing the bug bounties just for the learning purpose, not for the earning purpose. If you will keep in mind that way, you will be less stressed. You will be focusing on the learning the concepts, and you will be definitely will be finding the good bugs. And the one of the most important thing is, whatever you are doing, whether it is a bug bounties, learning any concept, learning any vulnerability, doing anything, enjoy the process. Whether you are getting the duplicate, or whether it is you are getting the bonus on the bounties, everything, enjoy everything, enjoy the process of learning. So that's all from our side. Uh, so we want you to give you feedbacks, and I forgot to add the Google form here. So if you have any specific feedback, please feel free to put the feedback on the mail ID mentioned in the starting, which is the WebZground. You can use this mail ID. Again, you can suggest some of the inputs and other inputs about the training and the WebZground. What are the improvements we can do? And if you are interested in contributing to this project, feel free to drop an email. So here's the mail. Let me just show you. So yeah, so here's the mail. You can use it. And if you have any query after this workshop, you can drop us an email regarding the queries as well as about the feedback. Thank you guys. I hope you loved the training, and I hope you learned something from this training. We'll make sure to improve our content and the way of delivering in upcoming trainings. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us today.